Hi, this is Sarah from Made on the Comment, and I'm back today with another in the series of videos I've got on downloading your data from Etsy. Today we're going to look at your Etsy payment sales file, which is not to be confused with your monthly Etsy payment CSV, which you get from your finances section. So I'll show you exactly where you find this file, what you can use it for, what it shows you kind of column by column, and also some of the funny things that you just need to watch out for in your data that aren't always immediately obvious. So let's start off with where to find this file on Etsy. So you need to be logged into your shop manager, and we'll then go to settings, options, download data, and you'll find it under the orders section along with your your order and your order item file that we've looked at in other videos. And this time we want the Etsy payment sales report. So click on that, and as with the other ones in this section, you can choose to download a whole year at a time or a single month. So to do a whole year, you just select the year that you want. So that would bring you down the whole of 2022. If you just wanted to look at a particular month in that year, you would select a month as well. So if you want Feb 22, and then you just click download CSV. So depending on what browser you're using and how your computer's set up, it will appear in various different places. Here on Chrome, you see it appear down at the bottom, and that will have downloaded into my downloads folder. So if we look in the downloads folder, you'll see it's appeared here, and this one is interesting in that it actually has a different name when it downloads. So once you've downloaded the file, it actually renames it as Etsy Direct Checkout Payments. I think this is because it used to be used in a different way. Etsy obviously renamed it on their desktop, but they haven't renamed the actual file itself. So it's, yeah, you'll find it as Etsy Direct Checkout Payments. And this is in my downloads folder. As with all of the information that I download from Etsy, I like to have a folder set up just to capture this so that you can always find them in the future. So I keep this on my desktop, and I'm just going to drag it straight into there. I've called it payment sales again in here just so that I know that marries up when I'm looking on Etsy which one I want. It's that one. So next we'll take a look at opening up this file in Excel or in another spreadsheet program, and I'll show you what columns it contains. I've opened up a demo file in Excel. Now you will need a spreadsheet program to open up your file. You can use Excel, Google Sheets, LibreOffice, Numbers on your Mac, any of those will do it. But you need a spreadsheet to be able to kind of interpret the information that's downloaded. So a CSV file just means that all of the various bits of information, so each of these values here, is just separated by a comma and kind of comes down in a big long row, so it's quite meaningless to use. If you open it up within a spreadsheet, it then just separates it nice and neatly into columns, so you can kind of read the information much more easily. So there are quite a lot of columns included on here. Some of the information seems to be repeated a little bit, but I'll take you through that as we go through each one. So we start off with a payment ID. I can't find this information used anywhere else within Etsy, so I'm not sure kind of how useful that information is, but I would just ignore that one for now. You then get the buyer information, so you get the username and the buyer name. And then the order ID. So the order ID is really useful because you can use this to match back against obviously the information that's on Etsy. You can search for an order, or you could use it to kind of match this up with what's on your order by item file or your order file. So that's quite a useful identifier. It also matches up with what you see on your Etsy payment statement, which is the monthly statement that you can download from your finances section. So that one's kind of more of a good kind of reference number to use. And you basically get one line for every order. So if you've had multiple items sold within an order, you just see it all added together into one total. So the totals you see on here, you should be able to match back to your order file information. So you then get kind of 6 value columns. So gross fees and net, and then posted gross fees and net. I think the information in here is, I think this is in your listing currency and this is in your payment currency. I have both set the same, so I can't double check that for you, but I'm pretty certain that's how this kind of works. So that is what you would effectively see paid through into your payment account, and this is what you see on your order file or your order by item file in your listing currency. The gross amount here it's a bit of a misnomer. It's actually the amount paid by your customer, but before any tax that Etsy have added on. So if Etsy have charged VAT to your customer, that's not included in this gross amount. It is after discount, so if your customer's taken a discount, that's kind of removed off here, and it will include any shipping that you've charged to your customer. So I'm not sure gross is entirely the right name for it, but that's basically what it is. Your fees, again, slightly misleading. It's actually just your payment processing fees, so it doesn't include any transaction or listing or anything else that would be there. So that's just your payment processing fees, and the net amount is just the gross less the fees. So as long as you understand what those numbers are, it's quite useful. But like I said, don't think that's everything that you've been charged by Etsy, and don't think this is a true gross, because like I say, it doesn't include taxes added by Etsy. You then get exactly the same information in your posted currency. Like I say, in my case, they're both the same, so those three are the same as those three. You then get the same information for adjusted. This columns are after any refunds had been taken out. So if it's blank, there was no refund given. If you see a value in here, if I go further down, you'll see there's noughts there. That was a full refund, so effectively the values are now 0. So that's not the amount of the refund, it's the amount after the refund's been taken off. You then get the currency. This is your payment currency, and then here you get the listing currency, and you also get an exchange rate. So if those two are different, it will actually calculate an exchange rate, which is the difference between kind of the two. The listing amount here, again, I think this is it's not the right terminology really, because it's actually, if I go to the top, it's actually the gross amount plus any taxes that Etsy have charged. So in this case, you see that is higher than that figure, and that's because Etsy added, I think in this case it was VAT onto that total, and that's the amount that the customer has paid. It's not the amount that you have your product listed for, which is what I would have expected to see in there, given that it's called listing amount. So effectively, it's the price you have on your listing, less discounts, plus any shipping, plus any taxes that Etsy have added. So it's actually the amount that the customer has paid in the listing currency. So that is physically the amount in currency that the customer has paid to you. So yes, like I say, slightly misleading. Another misleading column is the VAT amount. I don't know if anything ever shows in this column. I've never seen anything in there, and it certainly doesn't include VAT that Etsy have added. And it also wouldn't include any VAT that you might have charged the customer as a VAT registered seller, because Etsy doesn't know how to split that out. So like I say, I've always seen this as 0. I'm not sure why that doesn't get filled in. It would be quite useful if you saw the actual amount of tax that's been added into there, but I've only ever seen zeros in there. You then get, if the customer has used an Etsy gift card, I'm guessing it would show it in there. I'm not sure how useful that is. The status is settled. I think pretty much it's always settled because most customers pay instantly. You then get 2 date columns. So this order date is literally the date the customer has made their order. The funds available is when you would see those that amount becoming available for deposit on your Etsy payment account. I've just done another video explaining the amount available for deposit on your payment account, which I'll link to above if you want to take a look at how that works. It's normally the day after, so you can see this was the 1st of January, funds are available on the 2nd of January. These dates are in the US date format. If your computer is not set up to read those properly, just beware. When I look at that, I think that reads the 1st of February because that's the way that I have my date set up in the UK, but it's not. It's actually the second day of the first month, not the first day of the second month. So just be careful on your dates. And also when you get down past the 12th of the month, you'll see it kind of shifts format, and that's because my computer can't read that date. So it's trying to read that as the first day of the 13th month, which obviously doesn't exist, whereas actually it's the 13th of January. So yeah, dates are just a little bit odd, and you need to just be aware of that. You then get the buyer name again. I'm not sure why that's in twice, but you've got it. And then you have your order type. Again, you will pretty much always see online and online CC. I think if you have some a Square Reader linked to your Etsy account, you might see something different in there. And if you don't take all your payments through the Etsy payment account, you might see a difference in there as well. But normally you would just see those two things. And then the final column, you do actually get the refund amount in here. So if we whiz back down to where we had a refund, you'll see, so that had gone to 0 in there, and you see the amount refunded. And again, this is the total amount refunded, including any taxes added by Etsy. So you can see it's using this figure here. So this was a full refund. So you see the amount that's in that column, not kind of the figures related to this, which is more linked to what you actually receive and what you pay. So that's just something else to be careful of. But that's all of the information that it contains in here. So next, just some figures to watch out for. I think we've covered most of these actually as we've been going along. I would say definitely the amounts in here, just be wary of what it says and what it actually is. So as I said, the gross amount is the amount that you have charged, less discounts, plus any shipping that you've charged to the customer. It doesn't include any tax added by Etsy. Your fees are only your payment processing fees, not transaction and listing and all of the marketing fees that get added on as well. And then the net is just one less than the other. If you have your products listed in a currency other than the one that you're paid in, so I know a lot of Canadian sellers will list in US dollars but get paid in Canadian dollars. Just take a look. I'd actually love to hear from you if you want to drop me a comment if you have that, just to confirm that that's your payment currency and that's your listing currency. And then obviously that is your listing currency. And also if it does calculate the exchange rate, would be really useful. I'd love to hear your comments on that one. The VAT amount, like I say, don't use this column. If anybody does have anything in that column, I would love to know what it contains, because it certainly doesn't contain VAT. Dates, as always with Etsy and dates, your dates are in the US format, so just be careful. In my bookkeeping spreadsheets, I do have a date conversion built into those, and that's it, I think. So as always, it's dates. Refunds, like I say, this is probably, it's one of the only places you can see your refunds. You don't see it on your order file or your order by item file. But again, I would just be slightly wary of what it shows, and also the date, because obviously if you've refunded, you really need to know the date you refunded. This will put it on the date of the original order because it matches it back up with the original order amount. So what do we use this file for? In the UK here, I have limited uses for this one actually. I haven't really found anything that this would be useful for. Like I say, it doesn't include all of your fees, so you can't really use it for bookkeeping. It does include your refunds, which is good, but you can also pick that up off the payment account. So really the only reason I would say you need to download this is if you are in the USA and you receive a 1099-K report, which is one of the reports that Etsy has to send to the IRS for your tax. Now at the time of recording this, which is early 2023, I think you only get a 1099 if you sell more than $20,000 worth of sales in a year. I know there is talk of reducing that, so in the future this might be more applicable to more sellers. And this is actually the report that Etsy used to produce your 1099. So if you're trying to marry up the numbers that you've had on your 1099 report, you need to use this column. Actually, you need to use this column if you're using different duplicate currencies. In most cases for US sellers, I would imagine it's the same, that you list and get paid in US dollars. So these two columns should be the same, but this will be the amount that is on your 1099 report. So if you downloaded this for the whole of 2022, if you add up this column, actually if you just highlight the column, you can normally get a little sum down here. So in this case it would be 9065.30, so 9065 should be the value that I see on the 1099. I have a blog post that I'll link to in the show notes below this video, which explains a lot more about your 1099 and why it might not match your Etsy payments, which we'll cover in another video. But yeah, I would recommend reading that if you're at all unsure, or if your figures on here don't marry up with your Etsy payment account and what you're actually receiving from Etsy. Take a look at that blog post and that will take you through it in a bit more detail. But yes, that is really the sole purpose of this report, is to marry up with your 1099. If you're in the UK or Canada or anywhere else outside of the US, I would probably not bother downloading this one every month. I do the other 3 reports that are in this section, so your orders file, your order by item and your deposits. I do recommend downloading those. This one, limited uses, so I perhaps wouldn't bother with it. And that's it. I hope you found this useful. If you do, please give me a thumbs up, and I'll be back next week with another video all about your Etsy finance numbers.